Welcome back to another episode of Rod's Tabletop Hoops, and welcome to the first NCAA Super Centers tournament presented by CB2K Basketball. What I've decided to do here is look for some great teams amongst my CB2K cards. As you can see in this bin, I've got roughly 50 teams that I've cut out. I've also worked on rounding some corners recently. You can see that they're all nice and rounded. It kind of makes the cards a little more, give them a better field. Took me a whole evening of corner rounding with that. But anyway, before I start that, I was also going to show you my little gaming tray here. I found these at Dollar Tree of all places. A little tray right there. They had all the little basketballs, footballs, baseballs. I just thought for $1.25, this might actually serve well. I put my hoops cards in there, some dice. My CB2K cards fit right in that little slot right there. But anyway, for $1.25, it's a nice little tote. Had to buy two of them, of course, because you're not going to find this deal anywhere else. Got some fast break cards, the original deck and the updated deck. Got some original fast break dice in there and some other stuff. Doesn't always come out easily, but you know what? I have so much of that stuff, I might as well just pile it in there. And nice way to transport stuff around the house while I'm trying to set up games. Anyway, I was just going to try and reveal the 8 teams out of this group of 50 teams or so, roughly 50. I kind of roughly counted them. And I've acquired a couple in the last week or so because I had to do so to meet my requirements for the NCAA Super Centers. The Super Centers are referring to super dominant centers. If your team does not have a super dominant center, you do not qualify for this tournament. I've picked 8 teams. These years range from about 1997-98 North Carolina to about 1950-51 or so. So I picked some teams with some super duper centers, and we're going to start off with the first bracket, the first 2 teams, and I've kind of assigned them seeds as well, mostly for home court advantage, but not much else. And we're going to reveal the first pick for the NCAA Super Centers tournament. This tournament is going to be best of 3 each series. So I'm going to have 4 teams on this side of the bracket, 4 teams on that side of the bracket, best of 3 series each way, and we'll see how it plays out. And the first revealed team is coming right up. And as you can see, the first team selected is the 1955-56 San Francisco Dons from the WCC. They are led by Bill Russell. In 1955-56, Bill Russell averaged 20.6 points, 21.0 rebounds, and shot 51.3% from the floor. Certainly a dominant center. 2 championships won by Bill Russell at the collegiate level. So San Francisco, seeded number 2, is going to be the first choice in our NCAA tournament, and they will be facing the number 7 seed, Kansas Jayhawks. Kansas finished the season with a 24-3 mark. They were led by Wilton Norman Chamberlain, as most people realize. Wilt averaged 29.6 points, 18.9 boards, shot 46.8% from the floor, which seems quite low for Wilt Chamberlain, but there must have been something about the offense in that conference that was really clamping down on big Wilt. But that will be a lineup of Wilt versus Russell in that bracket right there. Wilt and Russell, as far as I'm concerned, never squared off in college because Wilt was gone a little bit early and Russell last. I don't know if they ever matched up. So this will be a great matchup. Best of 3, San Francisco Dons and Kansas Jayhawks. The Virginia Cavaliers are our next pick. An 8th seed, the 1981 Virginia Cavaliers, led by 3-time Player of the Year, Ralph Sampson. 7'4". This was his sophomore season. This Virginia team went the furthest, I believe, and it was basically 29-4 on the year. Ralph, 17.7 points, 11.5 boards on 55.7 from the floor. So that should be a great matchup for the next team I'm going to select. The 1972 UCLA Bruins, seeded number 1, will meet up with the Virginia Cavaliers. So the 72 team was quite amazing. It went 30-0. It had a young man named Bill Walton, a sophomore, averaged 21.1 a game, 15.5 rebounds, shot a measly 64% from the field. So having Walton and UCLA's number 1 seed, that'll probably be a victory versus Virginia, but you just never know. You got to play the games. Maybe Virginia will be hot. Maybe Ralph Sampson will have one of those miraculous games, and we'll just have to see how this plays out. But there's half of the bracket done. You got Bill Russell up there against Wilt. You got Virginia of 81 against UCLA and Walton of 72. As you can tell, these are all-time great centers. I've got 4 more to reveal. The 6th seeded Houston Cougars are next. They're led by superstar Elvin the Big E Hayes, who popped in just 36.8 points per game, 18.9 boards on 54.9% from the floor. Now, if that's not a dominant center, I don't know what is. The next pick coming up should not be a surprise. It's the UCLA Bruins of 1967-68. UCLA's a 3 seed and is led by a fantastic junior named Lou Alcindor. Looks strikingly similar to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Lou had some gaudy numbers. 26.2 points per game, 16.5 rebounds, and 61.3% from the floor. I'm going to dub this the game of the century, too. If you can see up there, Houston and UCLA early in the 1967-68 season squared off in a battle at the Astrodome in Houston. And I've known at least one person that was actually at that game back in the day. I was only 2 years old at the time. But it was Alcindor versus Hayes, and playing at the Houston Astrodome, a slight home court advantage to the Houston Cougars. Not to mention, Lou Alcindor had been poked in the eye and had blurred vision for much of the day, but he went on and played the game. But the Houston Cougars won that game, and it was a tremendous, amazing thing where they kind of put the court in the center of the Astrodome. You'll have to look at photos of that. That is just insane. There's plenty of seats and everything around. The fans were kind of set back so they could oversee the court, but they were quite a distance from the court, and the court was platformed above the level of the AstroTurf baseball field of the Houston Astros. But just to touch on this UCLA team of 1968, they were 29-1 that year. Houston was 31-2, so they were very high ranked, and 2-time Player of the Year Lou Alcindor is on UCLA, and 1-time Player of the Year Elvin Hayes. Quite a matchup. It'll be a great best-of-3 series to start this bracket. The next bracket entails Akeem minus the H, Olajuwon, and the 1984 Houston Cougars. Another Houston team. This is the 5th-ranked team in this bracket, and Akeem stayed for his junior year before going pro. Had a solid season at 16.8 points per game, 13.5 rebounds per game, 67.5% from the floor, and I believe he blocked about 5.6 shots a game. It was just an all-around season for Olajuwon and the Houston Cougars, who had a fantastic year, going 32-5, reaching the finals and losing the final game by 2 points to, I believe, I don't know, was Vanderbilt, something like that. No, that was to the Georgetown Hoyas. Anyway, I picked 1984 based on the next pick, I was going to go with the 83 Houston Cougars due to my love for Clyde the Glide Drexler. Clyde the Glide went pro after his junior year in 1983, but I decided Akeem Olajuwon, he improved so much between his sophomore and junior seasons that I'd go with the Akeem Olajuwon in this one because I think they'll benefit from the fact that he stopped fouling as much as he did as a sophomore. And we'll see how that matchup works with the next team we're just about to select. And as I almost gave out a little too soon, it will be a rematch between the Houston Cougars, 5th seed 1984, and the 1984 Georgetown Hoyas, seeded 4th in this little bracket. Of course, they are led by Patrick Ewing. Ewing came through with solid numbers as a junior at 16.4, 10.4 boards, and 65.8% shooting from the floor. I was almost going to go with the senior Patrick Ewing, but Georgetown not only lost in 85, I think that was the Vanderbilt loss. I stand corrected. That was the Villanova team of 1986. Rolly Massimino and Ed Pinkney and Dwayne McClain, a bunch of a crazy cast of characters who won 66-64 in 1985. One of those games where Villanova played probably their most perfect game they could ever play. They never missed a shot. They shot like 60-something% in the second half, and Patrick was a second title was taken away from Patrick Ewing, let's just say that. But great performance by Villanova. But this will be a great rematch. Houston and Georgetown, 1984. This Georgetown team went, let's see, 34-3. And Patrick may have gotten a Player of the Year in either 84 or 85. He has one Player of the Year to his name. And I believe, Olajuwon has at least one of those as well. But this is all going to be best of 3 series. CB2K will be the game simulation, and we're going to see how these play out. I'm very interested to see how Russell and Wilt are going to battle at this level. We'll see if Wilt can come through rebound-wise. Once again, I'm not overly familiar with some of the players on the San Francisco Dons and Kansas Jayhawks. Very few. The Dons have KC Jones, and the Kansas team, I think, might have a couple of relatively not too obscure players, but it's going to be interesting to see how well those teams play out. The modern teams, Virginia Cavaliers and UCLA, I'm pretty familiar with some household names on those teams. 68 Houston is mostly going to be Elvin Hayes and maybe Don Chaney at the guard. 68 UCLA obviously has Lou Alcindor and a couple other staples that are pretty good players. 84 Houston still has Olajuwon and a couple decent players that didn't do very well in the NBA. And then, of course, Georgetown has, it's like, Reggie Williams type of players and just very solid players all around. And so this will be very interesting. These are cross different decades and things. So maybe one team will shoot better from the floor percentage-wise. I will not be utilizing any three-point attempts. I don't believe these teams really, none of these qualify for that. But this should be a fantastic setup, and I can't wait to see how it plays out in CB2K.